Oh, hello there. Yes, well, it's reached that kind of autumnal mornings feeling of late summer, hasn't it? Yeah, you're never quite sure when they're going to arrive. Seem to be a bit early this year, but I'm not going to moan. I do like a day of about 22 or 23. Just seems perfect. Bit of a breeze. Proper English stuff. Proper British English British stuff. You know, summers that aren't bleeding stupid hot. Anyway, yes, today's a bit of a potpourri of a variety of different things. Stuff that just amused me yesterday, basically. I spent most of the day sat on my bed with a laptop and sort of going through various bits and bobs for work. And just throughout the day, various things were amusing me, apart from the inevitable being annoyed by racists on my comments. But leaving that aside, it just sort of falls into two camps, basically. The first one of which is, do they really think that I'm that stupid? The second camp is are they really that stupid? And then there's this kind of a Venn diagram thing in the middle, which is whereby I think sometimes it's kind of both. So anyway, I present to you a number of things that tickled me from yesterday. The first up is the news that Jonathan Gullis has got a gig on Talk TV, and which led me to think, who exactly is the demographic that's baying for more Jonathan Gullis after the last election? The scroats, you might call them, I suppose, but it just astounds me that there's anyone out there that thinks, do you know what I'm lacking in my life? Jonathan Gullis to give me his opinion on stuff. Yes, I mean, I know it's Talk TV, so he'll fit into that particular demographic, which is, I don't know nobody is actually watching Talk TV, so it's very, very hard to say. Sandwiched between Mike Graham, a man who I think, technically speaking, like everyone else in Bexhill, died several years ago, and Julia Hartley-Brewer, who seems determined, one way or another, to destroy her own career. We'll come back to her. But, just astounding that anybody would think, yeah, like John Ashworth, just to give us a bit of not being biased against the Conservative Party, but this idea that these people are so valuable that we can't let them go, falling upwards, methinks. Yes. Yesterday as well, the newspapers generally were sort of carrying on with their isn't it dreadful that the Labour Party is funded by unions thing, and this idea that I've seen sort of various things that suggest that we're all going to return to the 1970s, which, let's face it, wouldn't be a bad idea because there'd be reasonably high employment and wages would be high, and we'd have public services. But at the same time as decrying all of this stuff, of course, there was the ironic news that Robert Jenrick, yes, he will become the Tory party leader. I know I'm the only one saying that, but he is actually the bookie's favourite as well. Had taken various donations from companies that appear not to be proper companies, oddly enough. Democracy for Sale, well worth your email list, methinks. Go and hunt them out. They often come out with some very, very interesting things, but it's worthwhile pointing this stuff out. He went to the States and got lots of money from the States because he fits in neatly to that notion of a sort of Christian nationalist, that the theory was, of course, with Trump winning, was going to enable him just to sort of sidle in November. But unfortunately, real-life events haven't quite worked out that way, which perhaps brings us neatly onto the notion of the DNC yesterday when... was it yesterday? Yeah, they did, overnight. Anyway, they had the big names up, so they had the Obamas and other people talking there. And this falls into that, are they really that stupid? Yeah, sort of category. Ollie London. One of these days, I would love to see somebody on one of these shows that he actually goes on say to him, what exactly is it that you do, Ollie? At which point he'll probably suggest that he's a writer. At which point, again, I would suggest the person comes back with, no, when you write things on Twitter, it's a hobby, not a job. Anyway, Ollie London had put this up yesterday, okay, and I'll give you the context with this after I've spoken about these two people. So this is Ollie London saying, Michelle Obama claims Trump is not qualified to be president because he's white. Yeah, you see, she's racist, isn't she? Yeah. Who's going to tell him the job he currently seeks might just be one of those black jobs. Do you see how bad that is? Isn't that horribly racist? And Paul Golding, inevitably, because he's not a guy to ever let that brain cell that he's got rest, right, posted this basically the same thing, right? Michelle Obama said Trump is not qualified to be president because he's white, saying it's a black job. Yes, which is appalling, isn't it? It's appalling, all this anti-white racism. I mean, I suffer so much from it because just look at that skin tone. I can hardly leave the house for nobody saying anything to me. Anyway, apart from that, yes, except of course the context of this is of course that Donald Trump had about a week ago had said at one of his rallies, because he just rambles a bit like I do, but at least I'm a bit more sort of based in a form of reality. Anyway, he was rambling on about the dangers of Mexican immigrants. Oh yes, and he was saying that he'd done more for black people in America than anyone else because he was stopping the Mexicans coming in because they were taking black jobs, hence the Michelle Obama thing, which has become a bit of a thing with the Democratic Party, because one has to ask, no one ever will of course, but one has to ask Donald Trump, what exactly are black jobs, which is the entire context. Now, I think Ollie London might actually know that, but Paul Golding definitely doesn't. Yeah, again, it's that weird Venn diagram thing, isn't it? Carl Benjamin, yes, never knowingly over-operating any of his brain cells, also waded in, because imagine you are Carl, right, okay, and you're suddenly faced with the notion in the world, right, okay, that there are some people, right, who are women, okay, which is scary in itself, but it potentially gets worse, okay, because not only are they women, but they're not white women, right? I know, calm down. I'm going to lay it on you now, so trigger warning about this, okay? They're not only women and not white, right, but they're intelligent and can, they can really, in many ways, outspeech their husbands. Yeah, dreadful, isn't it? Anyway, he wrote this, just to take a moment to reflect on how preposterous this statement is. She's saying that Americans aren't allowed to self-identify, to exclude other identities, that they aren't able to determine who is and who isn't American. Americans, to her, are the nowhere people. Yes, and he was complaining about, anyway, let's read it from the Blaze. Michelle Obama says Americans don't have the right to decide who enters our country. No one has a monopoly on what it means to be American. No one. Yes, indeed, you see. And you can see exactly the way that that's been taken completely out of context, because, yes, of course, Michelle Obama there, in her own very, very good speech, I can recommend you have a look at it. Anyway, what he was saying, of course, is that Americans come in all shapes and sizes, because I know Carl might be shocked by this, but actually the majority of people that are in America weren't originally, as of, say, 10,000 years ago, living there. There are a group of people called actual Native Americans who did used to live there, because they were the sensible ones that kind of walked across the Bering Strait. They didn't just turn up, yeah? And, I know Carl knows that there are lots of people called Williams or Brown or Smith or Black in America, but unfortunately, a lot of them, actually are brown or black. And they didn't just sort of go there on holiday, Carl. Never mind, eh? If you can have a dig, that's the thing. Because, of course, these people don't really know what to do, because they aren't going to get Donald Trump in November or January, if you like. So suddenly all of those plans whereby they could look across the states and say, isn't it brilliant that ICE agents are actually deporting loads of people, will come to naught. It's a bit of a shame when, reality gets in the way. Anyway, talking of which, let's move on to another person. I don't know if this person is being willfully ignorant or they actually believe this. I think it might actually be the latter. Anyway, Rupert Lowe MP is one of those Reform MPs who nobody ever sort of mentions the fact that all of the Reform MPs are very independently wealthy human beings, which is probably why they're so concerned about the working class. Possibly. Anyway, he put this, which again made me chuckle in my own particular, let's talk about economics way. What's the root cause behind the brutal inflation that's made us all poorer? Uncontrolled money printing, mainly to fund unaffordable COVID restrictions. Not Brexit or Truss, lockdown. Okay? The vast majority of MPs refuse to discuss the impact of their policy. We will. Yes, you see, and he's falling into that classic thing that loads of people like to do. I mean, remember some of the Lotus Eaters being, Connor, I think it was, who went on saying, oh, well, we're printing too much money, because that's always what they say. We're printing too much money and it causes inflation, except, of course, it doesn't for advanced economies. And the reason why we've had inflation, of course, is because that nasty Mr. Putin decided to invade the Ukraine, which really upset a lot of things, because that then pushed the price of energy. Might be an idea to go all that solar stuff, etc. Anyway, push the price of energy through the roof, as well as some basic food commodities. Still, that's just, reality, Rupert. Yes, unfortunate name. Anyway, yes, let's let's keep going with this one. Anyway, in terms of again, something that just made me smile was there was some breaking news yesterday, and the Free Speech Union decided to post up a very indignant piece about the Labour Party. Well, of course they will. They'll make up loads of indignant pieces about the Labour Party, because the Labour Party are, all communists and Trotskyites and Maoists and the Stasi and gulags and Red Square and anything else you can throw at them, okay? I've actually seen them put up pictures of Keir Starmer with the hammer and sickle behind him, because that's really what centrism is. Anyway, they wrote this: extreme misogyny, inverted commas, will be treated as terrorism under government plans to combat radicalisation of young men, with teachers legally required to refer pupils who are radicalised by influencers like Andrew Tate to counter-terror programme Prevent. Yes, indeed. And, unfortunately, of course, as I say, the breaking story, of course, was Andrew Tate himself, which kind of blew a hole in that particular one, didn't it? Because, I don't know. You see, I think people that are extremely misogynistic are actually extremely dangerous, because, oddly enough, they tend to be people that are sexually violent, yeah? Think about Metropolitan Police officers. Anyway, yes, there will be inevitably about that particular one. All of those people. Do you remember all of those hours ago that Nigel Farage was saying, oh, well, I didn't mean to put that stuff up about the rioters because it was Andrew Tate and he said it was true. Yes, all those mates of Andrew Tate that might start squirming because there's something slightly unsavoury. I don't know quite what it is about people that are accused of, having sex with minors. I mean, actually having sex with minors. I don't mean the Lawrence Fox idea of drag queens. I mean actual people like that. When you hang out with Jeffrey Epstein or others, it might just be that some of that stuff sticks, doesn't it? Yes, a bit like sort of pizza boxes or sweat. Anyway, yes, as I said, we come back to Julia Hartley-Brewer, and here she is. Of course, this tweet will haunt her forever, okay? When there was the Greta Thunberg little spat with Andrew Tate, which he lost comprehensively over and over again, right, okay? Odd that he's a real man with a brain the size of a planet, just no chin. But anyway, odd that he's such a great thinker that he couldn't actually think to come back to a then teenage autistic young woman. But anyway, she said this: I'd choose Andrew Tate's life every single time over the life of a half-educated autistic doom-mongering eco-cultist. And the only car I own is a diesel tune. Yes. Well, Julia, that one will haunt you. A bit like Carl. A bit like Carl. There are various things that are going to haunt Carl. This is my favourite headline from that particular period from his local paper. Yes, made me smile as well. Anyway, do have a, lovely day, if you can. A lovely day, if you can. And, I don't know. See what events happen, dear boy. Events, yes. Anyway, enjoy.